Hi, this is Polyven Teachers and I am Sagorika Banerjee. Once again, I am back with another exciting video of English language. Today, I will be teaching you auxiliaries and modal verbs. So this would be the part 1 of this video. So stay tuned to my channel #Polyven Teachers and watch the video till the end. So without wasting much of the time, let me just share my screen with you all. So today we are going to read about auxiliaries and modals. This topic is divided into two parts. So today I will be taking up part 1. So what are auxiliary verbs and what are modal verbs? The verbs be, that is am, is, was, etc. have and do, when used with ordinary verbs to make tenses, passive forms, questions and negatives are called as auxiliary verbs or auxiliaries. So auxiliary means helping verbs. The verbs can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must and ought are called as modal verbs or modals. So they are used before ordinary verbs and express meanings such as permissions, possibility, certainty and necessity. Need and dare can sometimes be used like modal verbs. So basically the difference between an auxiliary verb and a modal verb is that auxiliary verb both are used with the main verbs, right? Auxiliary verbs only functions as a helper. So they help. These auxiliary verbs are actually called as helping verbs. So like is. So your main verb is play and you want to write in continuous tense, then you will write he is playing. So is becomes the auxiliary verb. But the modals, they also are used with the main verb. But the difference is modals always tell us the mood of the sentence, whether the speaker is taking permission or giving telling us about some possibility or his ability, capability, all that. Like he can swim. He can swim tells us his capability that he can swim. So can is the modal verb. But if I write he may swim, that means this is his wish. There are chances that he may or may not swim. But if I write he is swimming or he swims, he is swimming, that tells us that he is actually swimming. That only tells us the tense of the sentence, but doesn't tell us the mood of the sentence. So the difference between auxiliary verb and the modal verb is that auxiliary verb serves as a helper and modal verbs gives us the mood of the sentence. Modals are often included in the group of auxiliaries. In some grammars, they are called as modal auxiliaries. The modals can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must and ought are termed as defective verbs. Now, why they are termed as defective verbs? Because some parts are wanting in them. So they have no S in them. Means when they are used with the main verb doesn't have any S, or in the third person where we generally use S, third person singular number, like he goes, he does. But in modals, we do not put S. They have no infinitive and ing form also. So you cannot write he can swimming. This is wrong. He can swim. So the auxiliary be is used. When auxiliary be is used, let us read about it. In the formation of continuous tenses, as he is working, I was writing. So be verb is used, that is or was. In the formation of passive voice, like the gate was opened. So was is the auxiliary verb. Be is followed by the infinitive and it is used as to indicate a plan, arrangement or agreement. For example, I am to see him tomorrow. This is a plan activity. So am is followed by, am is a be verb and it's an auxiliary verb and it is followed by the infinitive to see. So I am to see him tomorrow. We are to be married next month. This is planned, arranged thing. Now next is to denote command, as you are to write your name at the top of each sheet of paper. So this is a command being given. Again, be verb are is used and it is followed by infinitive to write. Mother says you are to go to market at once. The same thing. Now be is used in the past tense with the perfect infinitive to indicate an arrangement that was made but not carried out. For example, they were to have been married last month but had to postpone the marriage until June. So were to have been married. So were is the again be verb, auxiliary verb in the past tense, to have been married, perfect infinitive. Then again it is followed by but had to postpone, perfect infinitive. Now comes have. The auxiliary have is used in the formation of the perfect tenses. For example, he has worked, he has been working. Then have to is also used with the infinitive to indicate obligation. I have to be there by 5 o'clock. He has to move the furniture himself. So have is used, have to is used. Now next comes had to. The past form of have to is had to, which is used to express the obligation in the past. So I had to be there by 5 o'clock. He had to move the furniture himself. So this is an obligation. In negatives and questions, have to and had to are used with do or does or did. For example, they have to go. And if I make the negative sentence of this, it will be they don't have to go. Do they have to go? In a question sentence. Then he has to go. He doesn't have to go. Does he have to go? He had to go. He didn't have to go. Did he have to go? Now next comes do verb. The auxiliary do is used in to form the negative and interrogative of simple present tense and simple past tense of ordinary verbs. For example, he doesn't work, okay? Negative form. He didn't work, again negative form. Then in the question form, does he work? Did he work? So do form. Next is to avoid repetition of the previous ordinary verb. For example, do you know him? Yes, I do. She sings well. Yes, she does. You met him, didn't you? Then he eats fish. And so do you. So all these blue colored words are actually the do form of the verb, auxiliary verb. Do is also used to emphasize the affirmative nature of a statement. For example, you do look pale. This is the affirmative nature. I told him not to go, but he did go. And then in the imperative, do makes a request or invitation more persuasive as, oh, do come. It's going to be such fun. In such cases, do is strongly stressed. Like I repeat the sentence again. Oh, do come. Like if I put like this, then it gives that you are stretching that and you are stressing it strongly, giving a request. You are putting a request to the other person. It's going to be such fun. Then the modals can, could, may, and might. Let us see how they are used. Can usually expresses the ability or capacity. For example, I can swim across the river. He can work this sum. Can you lift this box? So all these sentences reflect the ability or capacity of the person spoken about. Then what is the difference between can and may? Both can and may are used to express permission, but may is rather formal. So when we enter a class, if a class is going on and you want to enter there, so what will you say? You will not say, can I come in? You will say, may I come in? So it's rather very formal and polite one. You can or may go now. Can or may I borrow your umbrella? May is used to express the possibility in affirmative sentences. Can is used in the corresponding interrogative and negative. It may rain tomorrow. So possibility is there. He may be at home. Again, possibility is there. Then if I talk about can is used in the corresponding interrogative and negative sentences. Like, can this be true? Interrogative. It cannot be true. Negative. Now compare it cannot be true with it may not be true. What is the difference? Cannot denotes impossibility, while may not denotes improbability, means there are chances. If you are talking about cannot, it cannot be true, that means you are quite sure that it cannot be true. There is no chance, total impossibility. But when you are saying it may not be true, then that means that there are still some chances. So it denotes improbability. In verbal formal English, may is used to express a wish as may you live happily and long. So when we wish about somebody else's happiness, so we say, may God bless you, may you live happily and long, may you attain success, may you keep healthy. So in all these sentences, we put may. Now, could and might, the past form of can and may. These could and might are used as the past equivalents of can and may. For example, I could swim across the river when I was young. So this shows the ability of the person who is saying about himself, and he is also recalling that when he was young, he could swim across the river. So it shows his ability. He said that he might or could go. He might go or he could go. Both the form denotes permission. Next comes, I thought he might be at home. Again, this is possibility. She wondered whether it could be true. Then again, possible. Could, as in the first example above, expresses only ability to do an act, but not the performance of an act. We should use was, were, able to for ability plus action in the past. So when the boat was upset, we were able to. We were able to means managed to. We were able to swim to the bank, right? So not means we cannot write we could swim to the bank. That will be a wrong sentence. So when the boat was upset, we were able to swim to the bank. We will not write we could swim to the bank. That will be a wrong sentence. Next, in negative statements, however, either could or was or were able to may be used. I couldn't solve the puzzle. That means I was not able to solve the puzzle. So here you can write down I couldn't or I wasn't able to solve the sum or puzzle. It was too difficult. So what happens in the negative form you can use, but in the affirmative form you cannot use could. In the cases where it denotes about ability plus action, and that too in the past. In present time, contexts could and might are used as less positive versions of can and may. For example, I could attend the party. Now here, in this sentence, less positive case is there and more hesitant than I can attend the party. If you write I can attend the party, that means it shows your ability. That yes, you can attend, you are willing to attend the party. But if you write I could attend the party, this shows less positivity and more hesitant. Might or could I borrow your bicycle? Like this, might I borrow your bicycle or could I borrow your bicycle? a different way of saying may or can I. It might rain tomorrow. Again, this sentence, less positivity is there than it may rain. It might rain, less positive than it may rain. Then could you pass me the salt? It's a polite request. Then might is also used to express a degree of dissatisfaction or reproach, as you might pay a little more attention to your appearance. Right? Note the use of can, could, may, and might with the perfect infinitive. How? He is not there. Where can he have gone? Where is it? This sentence, where can he have gone, is equal to this sentence, where is it possible that he has gone? Now, may expresses annoyance. If you write here, where may he have gone? This shows the annoyance. So it is better to use can over here. You could have accepted the offer. That means, why didn't you accept the offer? Okay. Fatima may or might have gone with Saroja. This means possibly Fatima has gone or went with Saroja. And why did you drive so carelessly? You might have run into the lamppost. This sentence means it is fortunate that you didn't run into the lamppost, but there were chances. Now next comes shall, should, will, and would. Shall is used in the first person and will in all persons to express pure future. Today I or we will, today I or we shall is less common than I oblique we will. I shall or will be 25 next birthday. We will need the money on 15. When shall we see you again? Tomorrow will be Sunday. You will see that I am right. So in present day English, however, there is a growing tendency to use will in all persons. Shall is sometimes used in the second person and third person also. And when it is used, it expresses a command, a promise, and threat. For example, he shall not enter my house again. This is a command. So you shall have a holiday tomorrow. This is a promise. You shall be punished for this. This is a threat. So basically, I want to say that when we are using will with he, you, they, then it becomes a simple future tense. But when we are using shall with he, you, they, he, she, it, and whatever third person singular number, you and they, when we are using shall with them, that those sentences express command, promise, or threat. Similarly, when we are using shall with I and we, it expresses normal future tense. But when we are using will with I and we, that becomes sure. Note that these uses of shall are old-fashioned and formal and are generally avoided in the modern English. So questions with shall I or shall we are used to ask the will of the person addressed. As shall I open the door? That is, do you want me to open the door? Means you are asking somebody else that do you want me to open the door? Shall I open the door? Then which pen shall I buy? Again, you are seeking the advice of the other person, whosoever is standing with you. What is your advice? So where shall we go? That means what is your suggestion? Will is used to express. Express what? Volition. As I will carry your books. That means I am willing to carry your books. I will try to do better next time. Promise. I will succeed or die in the attempt. That is, I am determined. Surety is there. So in the last example above, will is strong, stressed. Now characteristic habit, as he will talk about nothing but films. So this is just a plain characteristic habit showing. She will sit for hours listening to the wireless. Next is assumption or probability. This will be the book you want, I suppose. That will be the postman, I think. So assumption or probability is being shown here. Will you? This indicates an invitation or a request. The sentences are, will you have tea? Will you lend me your scooter? So these two sentences actually indicate invitation or request. Then should and would are used as the past equivalents of shall and will. Just like we read about can and may, similarly. So I expected that I should get a first class, more often would. He said he would be 25 next birthday. She said she would carry my books. She would sit for hours listening to the wireless radio. That is past habit. Should is used in all persons to express duty or obligation. So this is also another property of should. Should is also used in all persons to express duty or obligation, like we should obey the laws, we should obey our parents, you should keep your promise, children should obey their parents, like that. In clauses of condition, should is used to express a supposition that may not be true, like if it should rain, they will not come. There are chances of not having this. If he should see me here, he will be annoyed. So in such cases, we can use should. Next, should and would are also used as in the examples below. I should or I would like you to help her. So should or would like is a polite form of want. Next is, would you lend me your scooter, please? So would you is more polite than will you. You should have been more careful. Should plus perfect infinitive have been indicates a past obligation that was not fulfilled. He should be in the library now. This sentence expresses probability. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching this video. That's all for today. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe my channel. That is #PolyvanTeaches. And yes, do not forget to strike on the bell icon so that you get the notifications of all my latest videos. So till I bring more videos, bye bye.